Hello, hello. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. You guys can hear me? All good? Welcome. We already have people here in the chat. Okay. This might be a little too far for me to read from that. All right, let's give that a try. Hello, welcome. Good morning. We are all continuing on the side quest today. Probably be the last day of the side quest because it's almost done. Yay! Actually, probably easier for this point of view. I have the dress kind of pinned together up on the dress form because I'm thinking about fit right now. So the original we have right here. It has negative ease, so there is no wiggle room. The thing is I need a friend to help me zip me up because the dexterity needed to get into that dress on my own is a little bit much, but once it's on, it fits, it's comfortable, it's not budging. So it was, yeah. So just thinking about the way things fit when you're using non-stretchy fabrics, and the way they interact with your body, because your body's squishy in certain areas and not squishy in other areas. And so I'm really sitting here just thinking about the fit of this dress. I left myself wiggle room. I'll show you guys in a second once I pull it off the dress form of how I can adjust the fit and everything like that, and also how I would kind of scale it up if I was to do it in a different size versus doing it for me or somebody else based on their measurements, which could be fun to do in the future, but this is just a side quest. Once it's done for now. Okay? But I have the opportunity to change the way that dress fits. And I'm debating whether I want to or not and how tight I want it to be. Because so the shoulder to shoulder measurement, I have an extra 1/2 inch on either side because I left it for the seam allowance. But I had already calculated in the seam allowance. So I just, I always err on the side of having too much so I can trim it down. But then it pulls it out onto further out on my shoulder. So I have to trim that back because then the armhole needs to sit in the right space and I need to make sure that it is low enough that I have movement in my arm. So I just want to true out my seam allowance and compare it to the original versus my pattern that I made and just make sure that everything's right, because the way the shoulders fit affect it, the way it pulls on the neck. And I really, really like the way the neck lays. It was what I was picturing. It's my favorite part about the dress. I am, however, going to rip out the gusset again. I know. I have a pin in it right now. It's just too wavy. I think when I did the top stitching, I stretched out the elastic, and so it's not recovering quite as much. So I'm just gonna redo that so that I am happy, because that's front and center of the dress. If it's not laying right, I might as well fix it now while we're still in there. I'm not too stuck that I feel bad ripping something out. The trim is on there really well with that zigzag stitch I used to attach it, so that's going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but stitches are fairly easy to rip out compared to other stitches, so I'm kind of glad that I didn't do an abstract stitch. So I'm going to have to rip out the gusset again. I'm going to redo the elastic so it's tighter because I stretched it out. And then I do like how it's attached at the bottom, so I'm going to leave that. So yeah, got to fix that. But today I'm going to really focus on doing the sleeves. But in doing the sleeves, I have to make sure that my fit is right so that I can then make sure that my sleeve pattern's right, because I base the sleeve pattern off of the armholes. So I think I'm going to be fine. I have plenty of fabric to use to just kind of try it out and see if it works. But yeah, that's what we're kind of working on today. Welcome! We have a lot of people here today. I'm not reading the chat. Is my microphone working? Bruno's right here, by the way. That is why this chair is taken. I couldn't move him. Welcome, Bad Wolf Custom Airbrushing and Decals. Welcome, Ionolith and 45th Clown and Michael Snell. Sorry, Ionolith, about being here early. I have a chunk of time that I can do this today, and I could have waited to start later, but then I would still have the same ending time. So I figured I'd give myself more time to play. And that's kind of what I'm doing today. I'm playing dress up. If you guys like my pretty dress, I threw it on over my other dress because I was thinking about fit. This dress, like when I was patterning it, like my brain was going, that looks tiny. That looks really weirdly not right, but it looks right. It's easier to dress other people. Like I can see people, like when I was doing the wedding dresses, I would get set of measurements and sometimes things would like, the numbers would look funny. And I'm like, that's probably going to pull funny. And then you look in the pictures and you can see that things are pulling funny because those measurements are a little weird. But if you use them, oh yeah, that'll work. And so I try to trust my measurements, you know, with that little bit of intuition of going, that's a little off. Let me double check it. Why? But like when I was working on this pattern, it was like one of those things that I was like, feels a little off, but it's supposed to work and it should be fine. And it felt off, but it worked. That's why I did the sample dress that I ended up making Tinkerbell. Anyways, that's Tinkerbell's the same top as this. It feels really tight. This is one of those dresses that if it had sleeves, I probably couldn't zip it up on my own. I'd probably need somebody to help me because there is negative ease instead of positive ease. What is ease? Ease is breathing wiggle room. But the good news is this dress is only tight right here. My lungs, like where my rib cage is not encumbered at all. I can breathe. I can move. Like when I make things, I always go, can I do a cartwheel in this? This one passes the cartwheel chest, believe it or not. It's a full double circle skirt. And it's not tight below this point. So like my tummy's not squished at all. And so it's only tight right about this under bust to waist section. And this dress behind me, that's where the tightness is. But across the shoulder blades, it's a little tight because I have like, not Hulk shoulders, but you know, like it just, I have a little bit more shoulder than that dress does. So that's where I'm like, I don't want to give myself a humpback because it's straight of grain, that back center line. But I have enough room because I left an inch on either side for the zipper closure, however I wanted to do it. If I wanted to like switch it up to buttons or something, I just didn't have to think about it. I had it an inch on both sides so that I had wiggle room. And I don't necessarily need the wiggle room, but I'm thinking about taking advantage of it. So that's why I'm like just thinking about fit, especially when I'm altering a vintage pattern. Vintage fits. The silhouettes were different. The fabrics were different. The squish of stretch versus the squish of a woven fabric. Like, so anyways, that's what I'm thinking about. But today we're working on sleeves. Lots of threads everywhere. Oh, thank you, Ionolith. Before I forget, make sure to leave a like. I appreciate that. Yep, Bruno's here. Hi, Bruno. Sounding like a supervillain. Rip out the gussets. That's hilarious, right? You don't know the lingo? That's hilarious. I love it. Okay. But I am going to rip out the gusset. Let's look at it. You guys like my pretty dress? double circle skirt on the top and a full circle skirt for a lining. Okay, so when I hold this finished bodice up to the original, let me get this hanger out of the way. Oops. Hey, Bruna, can you hold that for me? Thank you. I am definitely off by an inch on both sides on the back when I hold up the comparison. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I added that inch on both sides. Excuse me. So it's definitely off by an inch. When I hold the pattern piece up to the dress itself, it's the right it lines up. It's the exact same size, but I'm over by an inch all the way down. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this edge so that these two pieces, actually, I lied. I'm going to rip out my trim, that inch that I added, so that I don't have this bulky trim in the way. And I'm going to press it flat and open. And I'm going to serge this raw edge all the way down my center back seam so that that edge is encased in thread with my serger. I could also fold it under and stitch it, which I think is the way they did it. But I'm going to serge this whole edge, and then I'm going to mark with a basting stitch my 1 inch that I left for my closure. And then I'm probably going to press it along that line so I have something to reference when I'm pinning it up on the dress form of the way things should fit. And then for the armholes, I think I was a little generous on my seam allowance, not as much as I thought, but let me measure and compare exact measurements. The backs line up, so that makes me feel comfortable, but right at the princess seam, which is, I'm going to do it right where the top of the gusset is, from here to where it should end on the dress, and I'm going to mark that so that my armhole comes in enough, because these armholes are high. They're right up in my armhole, so like this little bit that I'm trimming off is going to make a big difference. But I don't want to overdo it because I know it's going to be a tight fit, but I really do like this fit, so I want to be as true to this fit as I can. And I'm afraid if I give myself that little bit of extra in the shoulder, that it's going to throw off my sleeves. I might be overreacting, but you can't uncut fabric. But I can always leave myself wiggle room. So I can stitch into my, cut into that curve if I need to help it. But now I'm just rambling and avoiding working on the problem. But that's what I'm thinking about, is like I really need these sleeves to be, the armholes to be correct so that I can base everything else around those. So if I line up my finished edge, oh, perfect. The seams line up. The edge is nice. And that is, oops, sorry. Okay. And then I'm lined up to the side seam. And yeah, okay. My armhole front is a lot different. My armhole back is correct, so I want to fix this before I move on. Let me get my paper pattern so I can see what I did, why I did it, and then make the adjustments. Because I'm probably going to use this pattern again. It's really pretty. When I saw it up there, I was like, ooh, I want to do it in a jacquard now, like a fancy fabric instead of a cotton fabric, you know? Something shiny. Here's my bodice front. And I hold this up to here where it lines up. This lines up with the finished edge. Yeah, I feel like I could really come in on that armhole a lot tighter than I did. Yeah, Bruno's being such a good boy today. Can you guys even see him right here? This is Bruno. He blends in with the couch. Not Top says, any chance a dress like that would have removable sleeves and still look good? Heck yes. I was thinking of making 2 floofs for this dress that I'm wearing right here that are just puffs. Sort of like the ones from the Labyrinth. It's just the poofs. Maybe not that intense. But this dress, I could also make the sleeves removable. I'm not going to bother. I like them. It's part of this dress. But yeah, the front armhole I have to adjust. The back armhole, let me just double check the pattern. And also, here's the back. Lay it flat. Here's my seam back with my added extra inch. That lines up there. That lines up there. All right, I think I'm going to drop the whole armhole, front and back, an inch. That's a lot, but it's not that much. But it's going to really affect my comfort of wearing it, because when it's right up in your armhole, it's uncomfortable, but you're going to get the most rotational movement in that joint. The higher up your armhole is, the lower the armhole is, the less movement you're going to have. But I think traditionally they drop it about an inch anyways when you add sleeves. So yeah, I'm going to have to make those adjustments. And then I'm going to make sure that my sleeve pattern still fits. It's going to keep the true shape, so that shouldn't be an issue. There's so much floof from this project. This microfiber, it floofs, it poofs up a little bit when it turns into the little threads. Let me see. Okay, sorry. I have the lights shining in my eyeballs, so looking over at the dark mode screen, it's a little like, oh my gosh, I can't read as well as I can going from bright lights to dark mode. Anyways, okay. These are off. It's bothering me. I need to adjust it from here to here on the original, right at that notch, which is the top of the gusset. this measurement of the original is, lay it flat, top of the gusset to the armhole, 3 inches. This one, top of the gusset to the armhole, a whole lot more than 3 inches. That's, whoops. I gave myself plenty of wiggle room. It's okay. It's rather I have too much than not enough. So if I go right over here, top of the gusset to the armhole. Oh wow, I can really take this in a lot more than I... Okay, so let me finish this edge because it's fraying and gross. Not gross, but it'll hold together and be really nice and neat. Let me rip this apart because let's start with destruction and then we'll start building back up. I will accept my defeat, rip this out, and then rip out the other section. And then I'll start building it back up. Ah, the laser in my eyeball. Let me kick that out of there. All right. Michael Snow, hope you got enough sleep Sunday night. I very much enjoyed that stream. It was a very long stream, but I got a lot accomplished. Okay. I know I'm ripping a little bit of it out right now, but that's okay. All right. I took off my trim 1 inch in so that I can finish this edge flat and mark it, and then I'll have a nice clean edge. Let me rip out the other side. And I'm still avoiding doing the gusset, but I know I need to because it will be much better if I just do it. And it's not an exact 1 inch of me ripping it out. I went ever so slightly further because I want to give myself room to work, and I can always top stitch this back down. So much darker, nicer in dark mode. Kind of, but going from bright to dark, my eyes aren't adjusting as well as I'd like. Oh, go a little further than that. Okay. That away from the project so it doesn't spill with my luck. All right. So much floof. It's about to be gone. Okay. I have all these pedals. Which one do I need to push? That one's for the sewing machine. This one's for the serger. And then there's a light down there. That cleaned up the edge very nicely. Let me do the other side. And this is the facing right here of the center back, but I ripped off that so I could lay it flat and do a serged edge all the way down, so that the zipper can be encompassed between these two pieces right here. and looks super fancy and nice and fresh. Anyways, I'm not doing zippers live. I'm not going to torture myself like that. Besides, just watch a good YouTube tutorial on how to do it nicely. I'm going to start on this side. I already stitched these pieces together, so I don't really need to pin them. Oh, that already feels nicer. Okay. I think I'm going to do the same thing to the side seams to clean up those edges, because the original, they straight stitched them together and then they serged the straight stitched edges together. I'm going to serge the individual edges together and then straight stitch it, so it's still going to be a straight stitch holding it together, but instead of pressing all of the seam allowance to the back, I'm going to split it open and press it to either side. So I have adjustability in fit. Yeah. And then I also have clean edges that aren't going to get, because look at it, like this is the project sitting around. These frayed edges right here are why we don't leave edges unfinished. Like, let me get my head out of the way in the dark, but see all these frayed edges? That's why you have to finish your edges. Okay. Uh-oh, one's pulling. Why are you pulling? Well, that's ever so slightly off anyways. I mean, that's done. Let me do this side. I'm just going through and finishing all my edges so that I'm not dealing with any more raw edges, and I'm just dealing with fitting issues now. That is why I really like having a serger. You can get away without having one, but they're a very nice tool to have. The right tool for the job makes it significantly easier, and this... Sorry. It's hot. It's summertime here. I have a fan going. It just makes my pattern pieces look possessed. So on the inside edge of this interfacing, the original, they cut out a lot of it. I think I understand why, because it really does add some bulk into areas that you don't necessarily want the bulk in, like right here. but it does give some structure and support. So I think I'm gonna leave it there, but instead of turning the, like stitching and turning the edges in like they did, I think I'm just gonna serge the inside edge of this facing piece. And then if I feel like it would look prettier, then I'll turn this serged edge in and do some kind of decorative stitch to hold it down if I feel like it needs it. Or if I can get away with just doing a serged edge. Some people think that those look tacky, some people think that those look neat. I don't care. I like both. I think there's all sorts of ways to do anything. Many ways to do anything wrong. Okay, D. Possessed pattern pieces. Stay. It's the wind, I tell you. Paperweight. There we go. Yanela says, I have a serger, but I can't get it out of storage because of my arm. I get that. Honestly, my sergers have just been sitting on this shelf for way too long because I didn't want to use them on live streams, just because troubleshooting a serger on a live stream is the worst. So I might as well just use my sewing machine. But I'm being brave and using my serger, but if something goes wrong, I will just jump over the sewing machine and say, screw you, serger. But yeah, having the serger set up and ready to go so all you have to do is sit at it is a luxury that I definitely appreciate. Oh, that's a nice edge. I actually like that. It blends in, it's soft. Yeah, okay, just a serge edge looks nice. If it didn't look nice, then I'd make it look nicer. But that actually looks really nice, so I'm going to go with that. I'm like, what are those dots? It's the polka dots from the organza. It's a pain, Oella. I understand that. I really do get it. Like, not having my having to pull out my sewing machine every time I want to use it is the worst. It's probably why I sew on the floor most of the time, because I'm just like, let me pull it out, use it, and put it back when I was in my other, anyways. But yeah, having your sewing machine out so you can just sit at it, use it, and it's like easy to use is a luxury. And that's like how you got to set up your studio if you're in manufacturing. This serger is meant for edges. This serger is meant for shoulder seams. This serger is set up for the narrow hem. This one's for the wide hem. This one's for, you know what I mean? Like you have each station, so you go from machine to machine as opposed to adjusting your machine to each job, because it takes a lot of time and energy and fiddling with it to switch the settings up on a serger. And just having, so yeah, I like to set things up so I'm as successful as I can be, but having the right tool for the job, it doesn't stop me from doing it anyways. Because if I don't have the right tool, I can do it anyways. Like, it won't stop me, but it definitely does make it easier. I'm trying to go around this curve as gingerly as I can because the organza is supposed to help it have structure and support, and if I'm like pulling it all off kilter, then it will just forever lay off kilter because it's the structure and support. But I have to go around this edge that is a curve. So I don't want to pull it funny. Leave the tension. This serger's presser foot lift is over here. I just lifted the foot to relieve the tension. I am so spoiled. I like the knee knockers. They help you keep your hands on your project. Okay, that looks nice I do need to press it. And then I need to go with my needle and thread and hand stitch this facing down to the seam at the seam. I'm trying to show you guys and you guys can't see. But where my facing folds over, I have to hand stitch that in place so that it stays there. But I have to give it just a little bit of a shank so there's wiggle room so it doesn't like, but I'm gonna press it first. Oh, let me turn that on. Got my coffee. Sewing machines still scare me, which is funny since I use band saws and table saws all the time. If you make a bad stitch, is there no back? Well, that's the great thing about stitching, is that unless you're working with leather, you can always rip it out. That's why we do basting stitches. It's like gluing it together. It's sticking things together. Stitches are really easy because you can rip out the thread and do it again. You can hold things in place. You can even get dissolvable threads where you can sew everything together and then dissolve your thread. And like, sewing machines are very non-committal, especially if you like use a looser stitch, do a long stitch, it makes it easier to rip out. So cutting, that's the scissor part. It's not the sewing machine part. That's a little bit where it's the final, hence why I left myself way more seam allowance than I needed versus not having enough, because I can always cut it down. But if I cut it off, then I don't have it there. That's same with working with saws. You know, you measure twice, cut twice because you miss. No, I'm teasing. I'm just teasing, but. Sewing machines, they're fairly easy, very straightforward. Serger's a little bit more complicated because you have 2 loops and 2 stitches. You don't always have to use both loops and both stitches, but it can get really complicated. You can add more stitches, more needles, more loops, but basically they have 2 loops and 2 stitches, and you have to thread it in the right order. Order of operations matter, and then they all need to go towards the back because you're dealing with loops and stitches. It's not impossible. There's home machines for a reason. You should be able to use them. They're not the easiest, but I appreciate them. They do make the job way easier. They're a little more committal because they cut as they sew. So once you cut the edge, you're a little more narrow than you used to be. So, but you can still rip it out, and it's not the end of the world. So if that's what you're afraid of, yeah, no, you're fine. You'll be okay. You can make that's why I'm not afraid to rip it out. I just did something, let me rip out what I have to, and then I go back and I fix it because it's not going to leave holes in your fabric. You'll be fine. Needle and thread. Using a seam ripper is a pain. Yeah, but that's why you guys always see me ripping it, just because the thread should pop before the fabric does. So you want your thread to be the weakest link in the chain. You don't want it to be more delicate than your fabric because it's easier to fix a popped seam than it is to fix a shredded seam. You don't want, because like if your fabric just, anyways. Needle on this table. So I think people get a little discouraged with seam rippers because you're undoing something you did. Like, oh my gosh, this was such a long seam. And it feels like you undid work that you've done. But the thread pops fairly quickly as long as you didn't like pull super tight. I think when I'm in a bad headspace, everything gets harder in general. But when I'm in a good headspace, I can take a deep breath. Don't over pull it. Let me just figure out what I'm doing. And then we'll go from there. All right, let me see. I am keeping this stitch right in the seam allowance so you don't see it on the top at all. And I'm just tacking down. You know what? Let me press it first because I think it will be in the right spot if I do. And by the blinking of the lights, my iron is hot. Yeah, this is way too wide. But I have room to make these adjustments to give myself more breathing room and fit if I feel like I'm gonna need it. I definitely don't need it on the shoulder to shoulder, so I have to keep the armholes mobile. It's just down here. Oh, it's a pop-up ad. Let me clear that. Okay. Let me just do this real quick. Okay. Let me see. Michael Snell. What separates a good stitch from a bad stitch, or a good hem from a bad hem? Okay. Bad stitches. Skip stitches. Stitches where the tension's uneven, so it's too tight on the top or bottom, so it pulls the fabric, so it makes it what's the technical term? I am completely blanking, but I'm like, I know there's a term that, like, but it makes it all pulled funny. So you, like, skip stitches, uneven tension stitches, those are really hard. So if you have a really way too tight of a tension and you're trying to rip out a seam, it's really hard, especially like if you have really bulky fabric and you didn't make a larger stitch length. It'll be like a bunch of teeny tiny stitches all really close together. Those are like, that can be really hard to rip out each of those seams, and it's probably a lot easier to go in with a razor blade to rip that open. Ask me how I know. But so when your tension's off, it can make it really hard to rip out stitches. When you I think those are skip stitches are easy to rip out because they're already missing. But like if your tension's off, that can make stitching harder. Or when you're ripping out a serger, you pull the loop thread instead of the straight thread, and then all of a sudden it becomes a really tight, difficult to rip out seam. That's what I consider a bad stitch or whatever. And a good stitch is one that holds it together, isn't pulling too tight, isn't making the fabric pucker. That's the word that I was looking for. Pucker. Makes it all, yeah. But, so that's what good stitch, bad stitch, it's not necessarily that. But before you actually do your garment, you have scrap pieces and you just run it through the machine and make sure that it's all good. Yeah. This serger, I like it to just be flat. If it's like, if I pull too funny, it will start to curve. I don't know. No, just lay. But I can make it so that it does gather, like on purpose. Like sometimes you want your stitching to gather, both on the sewing machine and serger. Anyways, that's what a good stitch and a bad stitch. Good stitch, even, no skip stitches, not pulling the fabric or making it pucker. Bad stitches, anything that's too tight or uneven tensioned, and or missing stitches. Pucker, yep. Okay. Yana Lith, I wanted to ask you if you're going to make a costume for Bruno. Bruno has a whole costume closet of his own. Maybe one day I will give a little Bruno fashion show of all his little costumes. He has a hot dog costume. He has a dragon costume. He has a lobster costume. He's honestly, I found these costumes cheap. cheaper than I could make them for him, so hey. He's a really good trooper about it too, because he does not like being cold. So he likes to have his little hoodies and sweaters, so he's down for a costume. Especially if it means being warm. I definitely have to keep this iron on the cooler side because it's making the the polyester sheet pucker a little bit. Not the stitches, but the fabric itself. Okay. You smoosh it and you smoosh it, and then you add some heat to smoosh it some more. And it's this little curve on the neck, which is my absolute favorite part of this stupid dress that I absolutely love, is that curve on the neck, and it is the hardest part to press. Like, it is super pressed on that dress, so I'm just keeping smooshing it and smooshing it. Like, I trimmed it out the way they trimmed it out, so I didn't actually take off that much of the extra bulk of the seam allowances, because there's a lot of seam allowance in that little seam from the facings, interfacings, and lining and fabric. Okay. Now I feel comfortable stitching that down. And there's my needle and thread. Michael Snell, I wanted to make a little cape for my watchman because he looks like Streaky the Super Cat, or a little backpack, so he's the cat from Stray. Right? I saw that cat from Stray and I wanted to make Spooky a little backpack. I never ended up doing that, but I did pattern one, believe it or not, because I was like, ooh, that one's fun, but I never made it. Because I wanted to make it so that I could put my iPhone on it as a little touch screen. I guess that's one of those eventually. Jack is not a fan of the dressing up. I'm just going to say that. He is very difficult to keep a collar on in general. Okay. We are lined up, we are lined up, we are lined up. That's too big of a stitch and I got the back. My friend's grandma taught me that a little nose grease makes it significantly easier to hand stitch, and it is so true. And if you don't have nose grease, there's also hair grease. Shh, it's a secret. But when hand stitching, thread conditioner makes a huge difference. That's a secret that you don't think about. You think, oh, I'm just going to do a quick needle and thread, stitch something by hand. Thread conditioner. Also, beeswax does the same thing, but I like the Thread Magic. It's a synthetic version, so it is magic, and I absolutely love it. Wax is cool and all, but yeah. That's the little blue thing that I have on my sewing machine. Can you guys? It's teeny tiny, but it has Thread Magic in there because I like it so much for hand sewing that they had one that you put on your sewing machine. And oh my gosh, I absolutely love that little detail. It makes sewing crazy fabrics a little easier. That and the Teflon tape, although I feel like a Teflon foot makes more sense than Teflon tape. I just had Teflon tape, so. inside edges, the edges look so much nicer and feel much nicer. I can still trim out the armholes, but this will like lay like it's supposed to be one piece as opposed to this chaotic, what the heck are you holding thing? Oops. Bruno's doing so well. He never just sits like this when I'm crafting, because he thinks I'm a weirdo for talking to y'all. Like, what are you doing? You're in here all by yourself, weirdo. Okay. Let me just smoosh this edge nice and pretty. So far when I've been pressing this top, I've been just focusing on the seams and not trying to press the whole thing, because I'm not trying to change the shape of my pieces, but I want to have clean edges. So you smoosh it and you smoosh it. When things lay flat, I'm just like, yes, it's all right in the world. Everything's way it's supposed to be. Things are fitting together. The puzzle pieces are the right size and shape. Okay. So I am going to stitch that 1 inch down the center back as my guideline. Ooh. I'm going to keep it as a basting stitch because, again, this is not permanent. It's just marking. I will probably remove it, like it's going to not be permanent stitch, but I want it to hold everything together and give me a clean line to follow. I'm still wearing this floofy dress. I literally just threw it on real quick over what I was going to wear for this dress before the stream started, but my brain is still thinking about, oops, how I should do the fit. Because how I keep, like how tight I do everything, I would probably scale up accordingly. I don't know. Still thinking about it. 1 inch is right there. Oh, basting stitch. I was a little off with how much trim I needed to trim back. That enough? I believe so. We'll see. Okay. Before I get to the sewing machine, oh, I was more generous with this side, but still. Michael Snell, out of curiosity, what are some of your favorite fandoms? Well, I like my favorite video game is Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. So for video games, that's kind of like what I like. Currently, I'm watching One Piece. I am like almost 1,000 episodes in. Almost, not quite. I'm still at like 600 or something like that. I've been like binge watching that lately. I really liked WandaVision, part of the MCU. Like, that was one of my more favorite offshoots of their little universe. Thought that was really creative. I feel like every convention I go to, I slowly know more and more and more and more of the characters. I'm like, oh yeah, that's from this show and that show, because I'm still playing catch up with a lot of them. I've always wanted Mabel's sweater collection from Gravity Falls. Those are the best. But I really do like all sorts of costumes and fandoms, and having the opportunity to work at a costume shop and work at Smosh as their costume person. I've got to do a lot of different characters, and I really enjoy it, from Pokemon to like, we did Smash Brothers, we did all sorts of things. We did like superheroes, we did DC superheroes, we did Marvel superheroes. Like, I really enjoy costuming. It's what I gotta do. Well, my degree is in fashion design and merchandising marketing, but still, I have been doing it and I love it. Like, I love a good costume. I'm hesitant to be like, I'm a fan of this or that, because I'm not like a super fan of anything, but I can appreciate and like a lot of different things. And like, I really enjoyed our Game of Thrones episode on Smosh. I got to make all sorts of the fun characters, and at that point I didn't have HBO, so I hadn't seen any of the episodes, so I was like relying on my friend. I was sending her snapshot. I'm like, if you see this costume, who is it? And she would be like, it's this person. I'm like, yes, okay. Because I can't always do it exactly, but with the budget I had it with Smosh, but I could like get it pretty darn close. So I tried. But fun problems, right? So I'm going to fold this along the line and press it. Having it a little closer is helpful. You smush it. I keep thinking that I'm going to regret my choice of using organza as my interlining, but I like organza. It's a very good fabric. Granted, this is a polyester organza, so it's plastic, but it is a sturdy grid for being very lightweight. I should use my clapper. It's over there. Oh well, I'll just use my hands. These clappers. Now what's a clapper? It's a wooden, it's a block of wood that you use to smoosh your fabric after it's been heated so that it can suck up the excess moisture and help it dry flatter. Like, it's crazy because it works. Oh my gosh, it's turning pretty. I like it when it looks pretty. When the inside looks pretty, it feels nice. When it looks like chaos, I'm like, don't look at the inside. It's not finished. I know, no one's gonna see it, but still, it makes a big difference. Okay. So, we have that extra inch that I had for the seam allowance, folded in and under, and I have that to put the zipper in. Right now, it's just kind of marked for the moment. We can adjust it. Like I said, I am going to rip out this gusset, but we're not there yet. Now I have to do it to this side, because this side, I finished the edge and I basted 1 inch along. See where it's all kind of puckering? It's because I changed the tension of the straight stitch. Not changed the tension, I changed the length without adjusting the tension, but it's not a big deal because I can just smoosh it flat. But that's why it's puckering a little bit, but it'll iron flat, as you could see. So I marked it at 1 inch, and then I'm gonna press it. Okay. Get these threads out of the seam, because I'm going to have to deal with those later. Might as well deal with them now. I know you can mark it, but I like having a tangible line of the stitching to follow. And it's not permanent, and I can rip it out. I didn't stitch this side down. Let me press it, and then I will hand stitch the seam. I did stitch it. It just popped. Huh. I guess I didn't stitch it well. It probably popped when I was ripping out this part. The sewing machine. Oh well. Round 2. Okay, I'm going to be covered in threads. Actually, I won't, because my dress. All right, this edge is nice and pretty. And this edge is nice and pretty, so. Goes from chaos to looking really nice real quick. And then it's going to. All right. Let me mark what I'm going to do with this front. Before I start going too crazy. Original gown. I'm going to move this ironing board out of the way so I can be flat. Okay. Here's my bodice. I'm right at that shoulder seam, laying flat. This edge with this edge. We're all good. Edge to that edge. All right, I'm going to pin these both together so that they are lined up as they can be. Seam to seam. I'm going to turn off this iron for a bit because it's just going to keep clicking and it's already a little too hot for the organza. This microfiber, when it's like all a bunch of layers of it, it's the necklines are matching up, the sleeves are matching up, this is matching up. So now I just have to make sure that Did you know that your own spit will get your blood out of a garment? Because it'll break down the little blood enzymes or whatever. But anyways, I just poked my finger. It happens. I got a little dot. Now it's gone. But if I accidentally got a little blood on this. Your blood, sweat, and tears go into projects. Quite literally. All right, I'm lined up to the shoulder seam. That shoulder seam is lined up. Okay. Now that's where I'm off. Top of the waistband to the bottom of the waistband. these are all lined up correctly. It looks like I have to come in. I'm going to follow it with a line of pins, and then I'll mark it on both sides. Laying flat and nicely, all flat. I knew it felt like a lot, but visually seeing it, wow. Okay. So I pinned from here all the way down to here, marking where the original armhole is versus, and now that's closer to that 3-inch mark where it was really off right at the front. Michael Snell, do you not use a thimble? Like, yeah, but no, not all the time. And there's needles and pokey things all throughout sewing. So, no. Not really. Probably should more than I ought to. All right, let me mark the back neck, or the back neck hole, back armhole. Make sure that I'm lined up with the original. There to there. Pinned. Back armhole. Lines up to about here. All right, let me disassemble my dress. I have it all pinned and lined up so the necklines are all squared up. And now I have the armhole marked. And I will take it off of the original dress, transfer my markings to the opposite side. Can go in the bucket. Okay. Chaos. Clean up that line. All right, I am truing up my edges. So making sure that when I sew these two edges together that they'll line up, and I am off right where that starts. I was very conservative when I was guessing my front armhole. So, okay. Whew. Let me make that a little prettier. The curve. There we go. side. Now let me transfer the markings to this side. So this is my back, this is my front, the seam allowance on the seam allowance. All right, pin it down just so it doesn't just move on me. Lined up to the shoulder seam. Okay, now I can trim it. Shoulder to shoulder. Yeah, that feels more where it should be on my shoulders, so that would be up there. I forgot there's a ruffle under in here. I'm like, what is this? It's the ruffle from it. Anyways. It's slowly getting there, but I feel like that is more the armhole. Okay, now we can do the sleeves. All right. I'm keeping these scraps. They are going into my pattern box because I can adjust my pattern based off of those, and I think I want to adjust the Sloper original pattern so that any variations that I make on this, I know that the armholes will be correct. Okay. I'm just going to pin this. Ouch. Take out these pins. Smoosh it and you smoosh it. Okay, let's see. Looking inside of here. They stitched the two together and then they serged the edges once they were already together. So that'll work for me. Oh wait, let me peek on here real quick. All right, I was going to put in the sleeve and then sew the side seam, but I'm going to sew the side seam and then set in the sleeve. So trim off this excess. All right, wait, before I do my shoulder, let me see these frayed edges, all of this extra. I'm going to serge my waistband so that all of this, I did it on this one and I like it. So let me do it to the other pieces. not necessary. I was going to do it in the next step anyways, but so many threads. And I flatten. And this one. Okay, a little neater, but let me push these two edges together, and then I will stitch up the side seams. Hello, DJ Stumpy. Felicia, do you have any advice on creating David Bowie's masquerade jacket from the Labyrinth, please? I get married next year and want to give that challenge to myself. Thinking of using steampunk pattern. Hold on one second. Let me Google image search so I can tell you correctly. Labyrinth cape. Okay, so his is like an Elizabethan collar. I call it that because it's a structured collar. I think you got to get your structure down first, and then I would do a full circle for the cape, and it will flow and do everything you want it to do. So if you find a pattern that has the neckline you want, extend from the shoulder and pattern out a quarter circle, because you could do it on a quarter pattern. But you want a circle, because that's going to give you the capiness that you want. I feel like we always think capes are rectangles, circles, especially like Batman capes and such. So good luck with that. That sounds like a really fun project, and a good one to do at that, because that cape will be fun to use for all sorts of costumes and get pulled out over and over again. Just doing some research on some art right now. Oh, nice. Adapting it. Your thoughts are valued. Okay, so yeah, I would go with a circle cape pattern. I would cut it definitely in a circle, but I would want to get some structure in this neckline. Probably like this neckline that I have here, and probably add some build up, like they have those little wire things for ruffs as a little bit of a stand. Yeah, I would do it as two separate pieces, but I would do a full circle cape and make it a little ragged at that. Okay, this side's pinned together, this side's pinned together. Okay, this side, and now the side seams lining up so nicely after trimming out those armholes. I'm like, oh, yep. I was being very conservative at the front, but like I said, it's easier to take off fabric than it is to add new fabric. Okay, let me stitch up the side seams, and I'm going to use my sewing machine for this one. Just a regular straight stitch, so I'm just going to turn it off and on again, and it goes to my basic straight stitch. which is one of my favorite little things about computerized sewing machines. My one coworker was like, why do you always just turn it off and on again? I'm like, well, because I'm starting on the straight stitch, and it goes straight to straight stitch at all the right settings without having to click everything. But it makes a little bit of noise, so it's noticeable. I always start at the armpits and work my way down, or start at the shoulder seams and work my way down and work my way out, because I want it to line up at my neckline. I want it to line up at the top. I want it to line up here where you're going to see it. And at the hem, you can even it out. So it doesn't always happen, even if they're like the same length. When you're stitching, sometimes it just is slightly off because you got smooshed. So I just, as a rule, in general, start from the inside, sew outwards, start from the top and sew down. Okay. Other side got off ever so slightly, the side lined up perfectly. It's just sometimes the fabric gets smooshed. Okay. Woo! Yep, that's gonna be. Where's my neckline? Ooh, that's going to be a tight fit. But it's the same fit. Whew. I'm nervous now. I do have 3 dresses on. Yeah. Okay. But the shoulders fit, and that's what I was worried about. Okay. Push this out of the way. Michael Snell says, my dream project is the King of Hyrule from Breath of the Wild, but I know that's super ambitious. Not sure if I'll ever be good enough to do it. Ambitious projects always get me to push my skills forward. I learned to knit because I saw this thing and I'm like, I can figure that out. Learned how to crochet for the same reason. And they are always more ambitious projects than I should for a beginner. But it's never stopped me. Doesn't mean it always looks the best, but this is hot glued together. The Jedi robes. Like, as a costumer, I've seen all the sins of sewing, like, because when it comes to like costume productions or the day of, and it's a costume, people will hot glue, they will, like, all the sins come out, like everything that you're like, oh shoot, why would you? I get it. You're held together by duct tapes and prayers after a certain point. But the thing is that it still looks gorgeous. It looks pretty. You don't necessarily know. It's all about the presentation. Like, nobody needs to know your flaws. It's a secret. I do have 3 dresses on, LOL, yes. I think I'm going to just take this extra dress off. But isn't it fun? I threw it on because I wanted to just remember, like, fits. But no, I'm not leaving Bruno. Okay. All right, now I only have 2 on. Okay. It's much cooler now. But, sleeves. I need sleeves. It's here. 1, 2. These are my sleeves. I forgot to put my ties in my side seams. I have to rip those open again. 2 sleeves, sleeves, sleeves. Okay. I'll have to put these ties in, but I'm going to just make sure I have all my pattern pieces. Whole new judgment. I love it. All right. I have to do, there's no left and right. They are just the same kind of gauntlet shape, but there's an inside, outside, and an interlining. So ultimately, there are 3 pieces to each gauntlet. Just make sure that that is going to, yep, that's the right size. That's the right size. So that's one side. Here is the other side. Build my sandwich in the correct order. Put my sleeve pattern aside. I got my 2 sleeves. Original dress. And I'm going to rip this out just to the waistband, just this section right here where I didn't put in the tie. I don't want to break the fabric. I only want to rip the stitch. Okay, welcome back, Ionolith. Okay. Traditional seam ripper would probably be a better job for this because I need a sharp blade and this one's not. Okay, one side, I do the other side. Hi, Bruno. Can I say hi? Okay. Hi. You're doing good? Yeah? Okay. Let me rip out give me one moment, please. What? I know. Life's too short for dull blades. Let me just switch this out. Why struggle while I'm live? I can just switch out and have a sharp blade.
Oh.
Yeah? Meow. Oh, there we go. That fits. It's a little dangerous having a super sharp blade because just want to rip the threads. There we go. Okay. All right. Hi. Let me pin this right here. This side up, this side down. Line up with this side, line up with that side, and do a pleat in the center. Iana says hi. Nice to see your face, Bruno. Stabbing. Okay. I'm going to do a box pleat in the center because I think that looks nice. Okay. And all these spider webs. The synthetic fibers that pull off of these really do feel like spider webs because they're crimped synthetic pieces of little fibers. They just floof up and get everywhere. Consistency, that's on the top, this is on the bottom. Don't stab yourself. Sharp things are sharp, hot things are hot. There. Okay. And then a box pleat in the center. You know what? So I don't have a weird bump, I'm just going to rip out this whole seam and then pin it together just so I have a smooth transition and no having to line up where I stopped stitching. Oh, nice. Knocktop is letting me know that scrolling through your live stream backlog, you're getting up to over 96 streams. You're about to hit 100 in the next few weeks. That's awesome. That's kind of cool. I feel like we should celebrate. I feel like I want to do a live custom patterning, but I feel like that's a little personal because I feel like nobody needs to know your measurements, but I can use your measurements to make you a custom pattern. Oh wait, I wanted to rip out the top of the seam. But I want to do some kind of a fun project. It's a good thing to think about. Okay, now let's do this again. Round 2. Foot. Found the foot. Click. Okay. What is this chaos of strings? Oh, okay. Now I have ties attached. All right. I didn't pay attention to it, but I should pay attention to it on this one. The pleat that I did lined up perfectly with the line of faggoting that goes down the center of the lace. So now I want to just make sure that this side does the exact same thing at the same place, because it worked out so perfectly on the other side without me thinking about it. I just stabbed my finger again. It's okay. It's not bleeding. So many fuzzies. Sorry, Bruno. Let me get all of those off of you. Okay. Now I have ties. Fits my armholes correctly. Not bad. Okay. Okay, sleeves. These are my dainty lace sleeves. Has a large arm cap, under arm seam from here to here. Wait, nope. This is my underarm seam. This is my underarm seam. Ooh, this might be too tight of a fit. It's gonna be, let me stitch it and find out. So I was going to serge this, but on the original, it's just a straight stitch holding it together. And You can't even tell or see it, so I'm going to do the exact same thing. Just do a straight stitch all the way down the side. I'm not 100% attached to these sleeves. If they don't end up working, I can make it work. This is just me eyeballing the pattern and see, like, getting as close to it as I can and then making the adjustments. So because I did make 2 sleeve patterns, one where I kind of eyeballed it and based it off of the garment itself, tracing it-ish, and another one where I did it based off of measurements. Oh shoot. All right. All right, sometimes when you're sewing with your sewing machine and it just eats your fabric, it's because you didn't leave yourself enough of a tail to hold on to it so it didn't go into your feed dogs. This fabric, it's important to hold the threads so that it doesn't get fed into your feed dogs. So let's try this again. Just turn it off and on again. And I don't think I'm going to make it a longer... I'm not going to lengthen or shorten the stitch length. Sorry, I cannot talk at the moment. I am going with what it naturally does. But I have to hold my threads when I start. There we go. And then it's also very important not to pull on my fabric or hold it back in any way, to gently feed it through so I'm not gathering or pulling my stitches, pulling my fabric. Because the seam is semi-structural, especially when you put it on a base. Starting to gather. Give myself a bit of a tail. So if I needed to slide it down, I could. All right, that's clean. Now let's see if it is too tight. I have about 2 inches of ease right on my underarm. Hulk smash. A little extra here. And then it's going to gather up into this sleeve right there. This is definitely a lighter weight lace than the original, but I think it's fancy. And if I don't like it, I have other options, so. Okay, let's do the other side. Yanla says, that would be cool, Felicia. And when will you be able to set up Discord server? Would make it easier for us to share our measurements. Yeah, that's true. I did make it. I have it. I have to figure out how to share and set it up a little bit better. So I'm working on that. But I did make it and I do have it. And I'll figure out a way so you guys can join. I've been wanting to make a dress form for myself. Oh my gosh, I love having dress forms with my measurements. I love it. So making wedding dresses, like, you honestly, the wolf dress forms, they're like shapeless blobs, but the measurements are the right measurements at the right spots. And that's how I feel about this dress form right here, that she has all the measurements in the right spot. She's based off of this dress form right here, which is a mold of my body from 10 years ago or more. We're not going to talk about it. But So this one is my exact shape. So the skeletal structure, it is so nice to work off of because I know how things are going to kind of lay on me. Those are my shoulder to shoulder, like where it hits my shoulders, my armholes. The thing is I am squishy and I breathe. So those are two things that can drastically change your measurements. Like breathing can expand your rib cage up to 3 inches, and you can also collapse it like down 3 inches. So whether something's tight fitting, anyways, just because I couldn't zip it up on this dress form didn't mean that it would necessarily not fit. Now I know that if it fits this dress form, it's going to fit me tight, but it's going to fit me perfectly. So even though it's not my same size, I can pad it out if I want to. But having a dress form is so nice. Ooh, that's dangerous. Let me put this on. Like, even if it's just close enough. Like, dress form. There's a dress form over there. It's a one of those adjustable ones that I absolutely hate. Those things are stupid. Why do I not like adjustable dress forms? Well, that's because you change the measurement right here. And so, like, instead of getting a wider shoulder, you get like a more deeper cleavage. Like the boobs just go farther apart, and that's not how human bodies are shaped. Like, the more you go up in size on that dress form, the more absurd of a shape it becomes, and it's not people shaped after a certain point. So I definitely have opinions about dress forms, but it pushed down to its smallest size and then padded out. I actually like the adjustable size that way. I will keep it down at the smallest size, and then I will put a bra on it and pad out the bra, or put on a knit tube dress kind of a thing and put out the padding so that it makes the right measurements based off of that. I feel like it's a lot more control. So it's not the end of not having the right tool for the job isn't going to stop me, but it does make it easier, and I do like having dress forms. Okay. Felicia is amazing. That's why I get sad when I can't watch these live streams. I learn so much. Oh, thank you for asking good questions, because I geek out on this all the time. All right, wait. Let me double check that I have a left sleeve and a right sleeve. Hold on. This is important. Okay, I do have a left sleeve and a right sleeve. There is a right side and a wrong side to this fabric. This fabric, hardly see it, but there is a right side, there is a wrong side, and there is a left and there is a right. And it does affect it because there's more fabric on the back side of the shoulder seam than there is in the front side, because we naturally favor our shoulders going in, so we take off about a half an inch from the inside of the armhole and we add it to the back of the armhole so that we can have movement. And when it's this tight, that is very important to have that little. It's not always important to pattern it in when you're working with stretch knits, but it's really important when you're working with non-stretch fabrics. Okay. Problem is there's so much I want to learn. Tell me about it. I feel like ambitious projects have always caused me to learn the things that I've wanted to. Don't know metalsmithing? Not gonna stop me. Truly, it's not. All right, hold the threads. Said that out loud, and I started to not do it again. Saying it out loud. Hold the threads. There we go. Okay. Let me just press that seam so it It'll be easier to press it now. Let me just turn that on to low temperature. Okay, not knocking over anything liquid. That's important. So, yeah. Honestly, I do want to do a dress form workshop where we build dress forms. Whether it is the foam style, like this one where I made it out of floor mat foam, or whether it's the expanding foam mold style. If you want to know how I made this one, I made this guy right here. The dress form's name is Kevin, like Kevin from Up. But I made that on Odin's channel. Odin makes a dress form. I walk him through the steps of how I made this one, and we made that one. The major difference is this one goes all the way down to the floor, so it is its own stand. This one's stabbed onto a old light stand, and it also doesn't have a neck. This one I have a neck in it. This one doesn't, and I like the neck, but I like having a male dress form in general, so I appreciate this. So if you want to see how I made my own dress form, this style, it is on Odin's channel, and I helped him. That's one of the first videos we did together. And anyways, fun problems. I have learned some metal smithing and glass blowing. It's super fun. Honestly, the access to the tools is the biggest limiting factor to me, but hey, I cut up stupid aluminum cans to make the the metal pieces on the Princess Leia belt. Not having the right thing is never going to stop me. Ever. Do it anyways. All right. Big iron's hot. Whoops. Hi, Bruno. Bruno, you're still sitting so nicely. I appreciate you. But I covered you up with the ironing board. I'm sorry. Just pressing my seam. After I press it flat, I'm going to press it to the back. So I'm going to fold it along that seam allowance and press it towards the back, because I'm going to sew it into both seams, pressed to the back as opposed to pressed open. So it just brings less attention to that seam. And that's how they did it in the original. And I was like, oh, that just brings no attention to it. We always serged the inside of the lace because I felt like it was more encapsulating and a more solid seam finish, but I don't hate this on this lace, especially since I have a much more delicate lace than they originally used. Smoosh it and you smoosh it. Okay. Yeah. And it's the Reagan Liberty. They have Princess Leia's dress there. That's awesome. Is that the one that they just found? Like Adam Savage did a video on it? I feel like that's like the next Leia outfit I'm going to try and do. But I've already done 2 Princess Leias now. I probably should do other characters. There are other fandoms besides Star Wars that I like. I've been wanting to do Uhura from Star Trek for a while. I even bought the fabric at one point, but then I used that fabric for completely different other projects that were amazing, so I'm not complaining, but yeah. Okay. It's amazing how ugly it'll look, and then you press it and all of a sudden it looks so much prettier. I think pressing is the difference between a professional look and a not necessarily homemade look, but a sloppy, I guess. Smoosh it and you smoosh it. Michael Snell says they had an exhibit for the costumes of Star Wars in Chicago last year. I believe that was interesting exhibit. This year they are showing James Bond. I hope to make it before the exhibit ends. Oh, that's awesome. They had a Jim Henson exhibit up in San Francisco that I wanted to go see, but I didn't make it in time. I'm still kind of kicking my butt over that one. The puppets, the puppets. Okay, so pretty. All right. So I'm gonna do a basting stitch on just the cap of my sleeve. So this is my tube. This part where it's curvy, it's right in your armpit. You don't want gathers in your armpit. You never want gathers in your armpit. Even when you have a really gathery blousey shirt, you tend to not add the gathers in the armpit area as much as you can. You keep that flat till about here. It's once you start to get to this point on your shoulder that you add, to get to this point on your armhole, not your shoulder, that you start adding your gathers. You could see that little ruffles I have. They don't start. Oh, I was like, there's sleeve ruffles, but there's just a double ruffle. Anyways, right here is where you start. And that's where your arm goes from armpit. Yeah, right? Goes from armpit to shoulder cap. And so you need those gathers so that instead of being like this, it grabs your shoulder and then it has room for movement. So I'm just going to do a little straight basting stitch from here to here. I don't have a notch in this because this is lace. How am I going to see that freaking notch? I could mark it with a pin. It's not that big of a deal. I'll just kind of smoosh it into the right spot, but about here to here. Yes. They also have props and costumes from MCU in Columbus, Ohio last year. I went to that as well. Took a lot of photos. Nice. Those are fun. I always like looking and seeing just the craftsmanship, like how much. All right, let me push this out of the way. Going, why? Oh, that's why. Okay. Straight stitch. Increase the stitch length. Alright, because I didn't increase the stitch length, this is super gathering it. I might have to adjust my strategy. But let's find out first. Let's make a big mistake. But I will pull out easy, so I'm not really super worried. And I'm going to stop right about... So it's all gathered and poofy now. There's my sleeve. So I'm going to pull it, a little bit of the gathers out right here because I don't want it super gathery at this point. I only want the gathers right here at this point. I'm going to pin it in place to see how much of a strategy I have to adjust before doing it to both and then trying to pin it. You know what I mean? See where I did my mistakes and then we'll go from there. Right sides together. This is inside out. So, right sides together. Here's my spider web of a sleeve. Here is my, oh shoot, where's my front, where's my back? I pressed it to the back. Okay, I have the right sleeve. Just double checking. All right, it is so easy to put the wrong one on. Okay, right sides together. Underarm seam matches up with underarm seam. Okay. Seam allowance is pressed to the back. All right. Okay. I'm going to turn this off so it doesn't keep clicking the lights. Okay. So gingerly pinning these together so that I'm not pulling things out of shape or funky or wonky, because lace can easily be stretched and it shouldn't be. You don't have to. And I'm lining up the armpits perfectly so that the curves are the same. Ah, strings. Okay. Right sides together. Sleeve is inside my armhole. Rather have too many pins than not enough. Okay. Starting to get in the gathers. It's a little too gathered, so I'm just going to slowly pull out. I left long tails on both ends so that I wasn't going to pull it off. Oh my gosh, it's spider webs. So delicate. Okay. Whoops. That was my needle and thread. There we go. Lots of pins. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to straight stitch it first and then put it through my serger. I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way, but I think I'm going to stitch and then serge, because they both stitched and serged, and it's easier to rip out straight stitches than it is to rip out a serger. So if this for any reason looks funky, I can fix it before I serge it. Looks like the seam allowance wants to get curled up in itself. There we go. So delicate and fragile and tiny and lightweight. Okay. I'm just going to stitch this, not do both sides, because it's just going to get tangled in these pins if I push it to the side right now. Get this measuring tape. Okay. With that. Why did I pull a piece off my sewing machine? So that my armhole can fit over here. Oh, come on, come on. Please, just be nice. I'm starting at the underarm seam so it all lines up as nicely as possible. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. Whew, breathe. All right. I did this with a basting stitch. I should have done it with a regular stitch. Well, it'll make it easier to rip out if I need to, because it definitely gathered it. Jeez, don't do that. Let me stretch it out a little bit. Okay. See if that sleeve's going to work. Okay. My yarn fits in there. That's the important part. Sleeve on. Fits. It's kind of fitted, but it's still poofy, and I have these gauntlets that it's going to sew into. So it's going to be about here when it's finished. All right. I think it's going to work. It's very delicate. Maybe I can add some little motifs on top. I like them. Okay. Let's go fight the other sleeve. I was like, I swear there's something sharp. I don't want to stab myself. There's something sharp. I don't want to stab myself. Okay. One lace part of the sleeve attached. Let's get the other one on. All right. I just went back to the regular stitch length, and I have to go to the long stitch length for gathering reasons, to make my life easier. Right here to about right here. Okay, let's do this. extra long tails so that I can ungather it enough to fit into my sleeve cap. Kind of smoosh it and smoosh it. But see? Little ghost sleeve. Woo! But it has a cap. Gotta turn the right sides out. Eonolith, that's a very good question. Where is Spooky? Spooky was either kidnapped or ran away about 2 weeks before we lost Toby. It was kind of a really hard time. There's a rumor that a neighbor kidnapped him and got rid of him because he kept stealing their food. He was not a scared little cat, and he was not afraid of their dogs. But I don't know for sure. But he did go missing, but he is not, like, he can take care of himself. It really makes me sad that happened, and I don't really have any concrete evidence or anything I can say, but it definitely makes me not want to be as close to those neighbors, you know what I mean? So anyways, yeah, I miss Spooky. Bruno, he hears me talking about him. He loves his Spooky, huh? Don't you? But so right now it's just Bruno and Jack. Right sides together. So anyways, that's, yeah, I'm very sad about that. It was a big loss, back to back. Still checking shelters, seeing where he's at, you know. I haven't given up. Who's Jack? Jack is, so my niece needed me to take care of her cat because she couldn't take care of him. He needed, complicated story. Basically, there was 2 cats that were bullying him, and she's had this cat since she was a baby, and he needed a safe place to live, and so he came and lived with me, and he is doing amazing, and he's happy here. And so, yeah, Jack came from my niece, and yeah. Yes, Michael Snell, you need to go hug your Winston now. Gotta appreciate him while you have him. Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like I'm never okay with it. Ah! Okay. So, I kind of keep it balanced, going back and forth on both sides as I pin, so that I can keep my sleeve gathers even. And I work from the armpit up towards my cap because you have the most gathers at your cap, and you want no gathers at the armpit. So I kind of just smoosh it all into the right space. Can we see Jack? He's not over here right now. There's 2 doors that are closed that he can't get to me at the moment. But yeah, and Jack doesn't like to be. Bruno and Jack have been very territorial over who gets to sit in my lap. Yeah, Bruno's like, that's my spot. Okay. Alright, now it's the spider webs. You smoosh it and you smoosh it and you lay it as flat as you can. Okay. Pushing the gathers. Feels a little tight. Wonder what I'm caught on. There we go. Okay. You smoosh it and you smoosh it. There we go. Okay. Whew. Wow, it's already been 2 hours. I probably should start wrapping up. Time flies when you're having fun. Thank you guys for joining me for all of this. I appreciate you guys here. Let me figure out my Discord service so I can share that with all of y'all. Okay. Let me fix this little spot because I can see that turning into something I don't like. Okay. So the throat of your sewing machine, the narrower it is, the easier it is to do tiny loops and holes and such. You don't necessarily need to, but it does make life a lot easier if it does. Starting at my underarm seam, I'm gonna lay that in there nice and flat. But I can't necessarily do this on my serger the same way, so I guess I can't really complain too much. There we go. All right. Okay. So many puffs. I really like doing it around the throat plate because I can pull the tension as it's going around and it gathers in so nicely. But that's one of those things you don't know until you tangibly have it in your hand and you go, oh, okay. Yeah, Bruno? Okay. He has opinions too. A lot of the sleep got gathered up into this little spot, so I didn't want to accidentally sew the wrong part. I did it again. I'll fix it halfway through. Why not? Jack, is that you? Here, kitty kitty. Keep seeing. Going back and forth. I don't know. Maybe I'm just seeing things. Okay. All right. Almost have a second sleeve attached. Yeah, Bruno? Really? No funny tucks, pulls, or unexpected things. Okay. Fits. I'm flexing it. And now I have a little throat plate that I can feed everything through. I don't want to accidentally get any of this extra lace caught in here. When I was a little kid, there was this book about a rabbit who was really nice to a spider, and he made her a dress out of his spider webs. And I've always wanted that spider web dress ever since that story because I was obsessed with it. These sleeves kind of give me that spider web vibe. And now I want a spider web dress all over again. Let me finish this side quest before I start another one. Bring it. This cuts and sews at the same time, so I do not want to accidentally get the lace. Like, I can fix it in the sewing machine, but the serger, that might be a little bit harder. And it may end up being easier to cut a new one if I screw it up. So. Strings. So now it's pretty. Yeah. That looks really nice and neat. Okay, let's do it to the other side. So it goes from this chaotic armhole to a nice and neat, clean armhole. So, yay! Finished edges. I'm gonna start. And I start at my armhole because if I screw up, it's easier to hide it in the beginning, and I figure it out by the time I get to the top where you can see what's going on. But also because it lays flat at the armpit and then it gets gathered as you go up. Okay. Two lace parts of the sleeves attached. So now I am going to take each of these gauntlets and I am going to sew the side seams, the bottom, and the other side seam, leaving the whole top untouched. And then I am going to flip it inside out and press it flat. And then I am going to leave the zipper part until not on the live stream, and then after I put in the zipper, then I'm going to attach the finished gauntlet by the top to the lace part of the sleeves, because that's how they did it. And why not do it the way they did it? Because it seems like a good enough of a way as any. I'm going to use the serger, because why not? If it becomes annoying for any reason, I'll stop and use a sewing machine. yeah, this is going to be a nice long stream again today. Sorry, and you're welcome. Thank you for joining me. Okay. So, finished. I want this gauntlet to be the fashion fabric both on the inside and the outside with the peach lining in between. But how I'm going to sew it is the peach lining with on the opposite side of the two right sides together. So I'm going to put the two right sides of the fashion fabric with that are facing right sides together, and then the peach interlining fabric is on top of that stack. So that's the way I'm going to build the sandwich, and then I'm going to serge all the way around, and then when I flip it, you're only going to see the pretty fashion fabric and not my lining. So, what's wrong, Bruno? Do you go outside? I'm almost done, okay? Bye, Yanalith. Take care and have a nice rest of your day. I'm glad you guys find this very interesting. I find it interesting too. These can be so simple and get so complicated. The serger. Okay. Now I want to do a sharp corner. I'm like, oh, I could do, but I just want a really sharp corner. Oh no, what is that? Hooked on something. Oh well. One. Gauntlet. Part of me wants to do lace-up gauntlets instead of the zipper, but I know that that's a bad idea. I really do. I just like the look of it, but I know the zipper works. Bruno's giving me those puppy dog eyes right there through the glass table. You are a cutie patootie. You are. You want to come here? No, he wants me to go. Come here. Up, up, up. You want to help? Okay. Hey, you want to go over there? Okay. There you go. You don't say. He sat on your swatch, LOL. Yeah. He knows what I'm paying attention to. That's not him. I'm almost done. Can I press these and then I'll be done? Okay. Yeah? Crafting level Bruno. I appreciate you. I do. Let me iron these and then we can be done, okay? There you go. Lay low. Lay low. Thank you. Okay. There's my thing. Okay, Bruno. Go ahead. He just wanted out. Okay. The pillowcase specifically said don't iron, but I've been ironing. So. All right. Okay. I like to start flipping it inside out at my corners so that I can get really sharp pointed corners. There's definitely not a left or a right to this as of yet. I was thinking about hiding the zipper in this seam, in the side seams of the gauntlet, but that's not the way they did it, so I'm doing it the way they did it because it actually looks really easy the way they did it. You smoosh it and then you smoosh it. Okay. So, in our little bag. So I fold the seam allowance in and down and over itself right at the corner, just so it's as sharp of a corner as I can on both sides. Non-ironed as is. Here's our gauntlet. Oh geez, that's a little tight. Is that going to be fine? Is it in the right spot? Yep, that's right where it hits. Okay. Let me press it. Smoosh and smoosh. I'm turning up the heat just a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay. All right, now I'm going to serge this raw edge now. I lied. I want to press it a little bit better. Just a little bit with the higher temp. Yeah, I needed to go up the temperature a little bit. Okay. All right. Let me serge this edge so it's all pretty. All right, let me get this one pressed. I smell the plastic melting. Means it's gonna hold its shape nice. Do the other side too. All right, it's smooshed and smooshed and smooshed. All right. So pretty. All right, now I have to put the zipper in, and I do the closed end of the zipper, so when you zip it up, it closes to the wrist, and when you unzip it, it opens and spreads to the top, and then right where it's attached is where I'm going to attach it to the lace. So that's where I'm going to stop for the moment. Let me throw this up on the dress form. pinned anyways. Stay. The original. The original versus my duplicate. I think I'm going to end up adding the extra little bit in the back, but I'm really glad that I cleaned up the front seam. It needed it. So Michael's now looking great. Thank you. 45th Clown enjoyed today. Been quite melting over here. So hot. Right, it is definitely hot. It is that weather, but I'm done for today. I have lace on my sleeves. That was tricky enough. I want to attach the gauntlets and the zipper. I don't want to do that on stream because I don't want the pressure while I'm doing it. I'd rather be relaxed, and I can do it in the quiet and not stress out about it. So I'm not going to be stressing out over doing zippers live. But yeah, I do need to attach the waistband, and I do need to hem it. Yeah, no, I think I'm done with this dress for now. Like, I'm not going to go live working on this one anymore. I'm, like, any of the work that I do on it, I won't be doing live. But when it's finished, I will post it, me wearing both of them in comparison. So, I hope you guys enjoyed joining me on this little side quest. I'll be updating you guys as the progress goes. I have to go get zippers now. Oh, but I love it. It's coming together. I have to attach these sleeve gauntlets, and I have to attach the skirt, and then I can twirl around. But those both, and I need to add 3 zippers. Okay. Thank you. I think I'm calling it a day. Until next time, I will see you guys next week on Tuesday. I may pop in randomly. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and that you do the bell notifications if you want to see if I randomly go live, or catch me when I'm live on Tuesdays. But until next week, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.